The Jesus Trilogy, Book 2, Then There Were Two, Chapter 57. The war room deep underground on the planet Saturn had been absolutely silent all day long. It was a massive room extending for 100 miles, with a massive video screen miles high. Each chair was a combination recliner, bed, massage machine, and wet bar. There were at least 100,000 chairs, and each could hold the body of the 20-foot-tall angel in perfect comfort. The most senior of the white shirts occupied the front chairs, but the view was great from any vantage point, and each chair had its own small video monitor. Below the massive screen was a massive control panel and communications center unlike any in the solar system of planet Earth. On the planet Jupiter, deep underground, there was a virtually identical room with a panel manned by the black shirts. They numbered about half as many as the white shirts. The number varied from week to week as angels defected from one side to the other. The massive screens were four-dimensional and could be viewed perfectly from any position. Since 4 BC, the screen had been tuned to the same area on the planet most all of the time. In fact, it had been trained for the most part on one boy, now grown to a man. Though they didn't know the exact day when things would come to a head, they knew it would not be much longer. In fact, there would be only 10 short years before they would all have to make their final decision. They had to decide once and for all whether they would stay with the Almighty God, their Creator, albeit old-fashioned Pops, the one who would never break any rule, or they would have to throw in their lot with the young dynamic black shirts led by Bells and Luke. These two guaranteed their subjects everything that Pops did and more. Bells or Luke would assume Pop's place and develop from beings with 8 mind power into those with infinite power. It would take time, but once they did so, they promised to abolish all the rules. The 10 Commandments would go out the window along with any other controls. There would be complete freedom. Anyone could do or have whatever he or she pleased. Fun and games all the time. Wine, women, and song 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months a year, forever. God had said all would die if they didn't stay with the white shirts. But though some were lost in the battle of heaven, most had survived nicely. It had been 4,000 years of Earth time so far, a relative blip compared to universal time, where time was measured in light years. Despite the flood of 2348 BC, when Pop's human contingent decreased to 8 souls, his spirit had still survived, and though not flourishing, still had a strong thread running through humanity. It had become clear to all since the virgin birth of Junior in 4 BC that the jig would soon be up, and the tension in both war rooms was being ratcheted up on a daily basis. The only difference in the physical appearance of the two massive war rooms was the huge video chart at the east end of the Jupiter war room. That is the war room of the black shirts. On this video board was listed each day, beginning with day 1 of Junior's life on Earth and his activities. On each day was the listed actions the black shirts considered treasonous to the white shirts, and the odds of Junior completely abandoning the white shirts and turning to the black shirt side the following day. One problem the black shirts had was that Pops was still the judge of whether anything Junior did or did not do was a treasonous act. Despite the objections of the black shirts to the contrary, Pops had not as yet judged any act of Junior's as human to be remotely treasonous. These judgments forced the black shirts to cross off every activity of Junior's save 2. There were still 2 Bells and Luke would not cross off. One was the day Jesus had been trapped by Judas and accused of cheating on a test. The second was the day only a few months ago when Gentile locked Jesus in the bathroom. The black shirts and Luke in particular believed these 2 were key times when Junior had failed, and it was brought up at every yearly conference. Luke and Bells realized Junior had nearly slipped and determined to concentrate on these 2 aspects of Junior's life, his love of women and his good heart. At the time of those two scenarios, Luke had sent a letter of protest up to M42 alerting Pops to the fact that Pop's son had failed. But Pops ruled that Junior had not failed and assured Luke and all the black shirts that he was watching every move on the planet Earth by every being. Pops told Luke and Bells that despite his not agreeing with Luke and Bells that Junior had failed, he promised the black shirts a direct shot at Junior before things came to a head and all had to make a final decision. Pops told Luke and Bells that to ensure that they would have a fair shot, he would make Junior have a period of fasting prior to the day of the direct encounter. "Piece of cake," Knapp cried when he heard the news. Ed and Jesse seconded the comment. They all thought Pops had really lost his marbles. They all knew they had Junior now. Despite this welcome turn of events, Bells toured Jupiter and Earth himself, urging all to double their efforts in a war against the white shirts. The day of the announcement by Bells that there was to be a direct confrontation of Junior, who as yet did not even know he was the Messiah for sure, over 1 billion angels switched allegiance to the black shirts. It was the largest defection either way to that time. Even Gabriel thought of switching over, but had gone up and had a conference with Pops. Though initially skeptical, Pops reassured Gabe that Junior would prevail. After all, he was Pop's son. Pops told him the now widely known direct confrontation was still a ways off. Pops admonished Gabe and the white shirts to work with even more fervor. Gabe believed, but his face remained long for many weeks to come. His grim face was still grim when the two June angels, Byron and Sparrow, met with Jesus in Jericho. It had been a huge black shirt rally the night before, crying in shrill voices with hard-driving rock music playing in the background at decibel levels to be said loud enough to bring down the walls of Jericho a second time. Communication at the skill level of angels has advanced to the highest level. Anyone could find out what anyone else was saying or doing at any time. If they were in direct sight of humans, they could usually read their thoughts from the humans' facial expressions. Angels had one advantage over humans. They could assume a blank facial expression to block other angels reading their thoughts. However, activating this blank face took a lot of energy. The mind of Jehovah was the only mind that could never be read or breached in any way. As Byron had walked away from Jesus, the feeling of total failure had overcome him. The cheering from the black shirts in Jupiter's war room shook the planet so much it veered off course a half-degree, wobbled slightly, then stabilized. The silence in Saturn's war room was deafening. Many began to cry. Others began easing toward the war room door, but when June Angel 274182 landed on the rail of the deck next to Jesus, both rooms went dead silent. When Jesus' tears of sadness and self-pity turned to tears of joy, tears laced with the power of Jehovah himself, both rooms erupted, and both Saturn and Jupiter wobbled noticeably. The cheers from the white war room were deafening, and the wind produced by the happy flapping, an angelic sign of pleasure, of billions of angels' wings, sent a rush of wind that pushed the seventh rock, Uranus, careening off course. A company of angels had to be sent to right its orbital course. Just as loud were the cries, epithets, curses, and hateful gestures coming from the war room of the black shirts when the little sparrow 274182 sang his heart out, and in effect reinforced Jesus' resolve to continue his journey to become the Messiah. In that encounter, Jesus renewed his quest to become that Messiah. What Jesus did not realize at the time was that on his quest was writing the future of the universe and all life. But every other being in the universe did realize exactly what had happened. Momentum had shifted dramatically this evening in a little town called Jericho. It was as if Jericho's walls had fallen again as they had some 1,500 Earth years earlier. Mills was so irate that he ordered one of his operatives to morph into a falcon and take out that little sparrow. But Gabe's operative, Arch, morphed into the form of a bald eagle, diverting the falcon's attention long enough for the little sparrow to escape Earth's atmosphere. morph into his angelic form, and race to Saturn to report what everyone in the solar system already knew had happened. The roars of laughter were almost as loud when Mary shooed the little sparrow, 274182, off the ledge, something Jesus, Jr., couldn't do. Just like Eve, one angel roared. Women have all the power on that planet. They do here, too, Esmeralda, a white-shirted female angel, yelled from Saturn's war room. The laughter and merriment continued far into the night.